in the last couple of years, probably for the first time since protests against going into Iraq, for the Iraq war, we saw actually large numbers of people protesting in the UK over government decisions. I have never been a protester traditionally, but I was out on the roads at the freedom marches because I objected to children being kept from school. I objected to a lot of the draconian measures with the government apparently getting involved in the minutiae of our lives. Do you think it is entirely coincidental that they're now bringing in these powers given that backdrop?
Well, certainly we are seeing a very slow, gradual, but very determined erosion of the right to protest. There have been a series of public order bills and legislations over recent years, which have gradually given the police more and more powers and placed more and more restrictions on the right to protest. Now, of course, even if people say we want these disruptions shut down, that's not always the way it works. Sometimes protests that are not particularly disruptive are taken and shut down by the police, or disrupted by the police, or moved by the police, or otherwise restricted by the police. So we have to be very, very careful in proposing new legislation, because what is happening is a cut-by-cut process of limiting freedom of expression, and that will affect everyone. You may not agree with just Stop Oil and Extinction Rebellion, but you may have a cause you want to protest about. Under this new legislation, your right to do so may be determined to be a criminal act, and you could face arrest, again, not because of what you have done, but because of what the police think you might do.
Do you think, as Olivia was saying there, this is actually quite a political move for Rishi Sunak? He's perceived right now to be fairly weak. This might be seen as him being strong. And of course, there are many people, and I sympathise with those who've had their lives disrupted because of these idiots that hang on M25 gantries and block the roads and cause huge disruption. The irony is that it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The irony is that the people who were making such a huge amount of disruption into people's lives have handed the government a stick to beat them, and therefore all of us with. On that note, really, and I know I'm talking a lot, Peter, and I want you to hear what you say, but I do feel very, very strongly about this, and I think it's really important that people understand what we might lose here, is that once you give up these powers, it's not really traditional in history that the government ever give the power back to the people, is it?
Absolutely not. Since the Public Order Act in 1986, there have been a succession of increasingly repressive laws passed to restrict the right to protest and to give the police exceptional powers. We were told when the Public Order Act in 1986 was passed, it was primarily to combat street hooliganism and rioting and football hooligans who were on the rampage after football matches. It's hardly ever been used against those. It's increasingly been used against peaceful protests. So I've been arrested many times under the Public Order Act of 1986 for simply staging a peaceful protest, but the police have interpreted my actions as falling within the remit of the law, and that protest has been shut down and I've been carted off to the police station. You're right. Once the laws are on the statute book, they're never repealed. And that's the huge, huge danger. We're going down a slippery slope, which is going to mean that anyone, for any reason, could have their protest deemed to be potentially disruptive and therefore shut down and arrested.